enterprise risk management on firm performance, the case of Malaysian listed firms. Actually, it's I think a third of my PhD papers. I currently pursuing my PhD papers. I'm not getting it yet, but getting to it. I start with the background of studies of this particular topic. Talking about corporate sector in East Asia, particularly Malaysia before the financial crisis in late 90s, it's been viewed as very competitive and very adept at exploiting new market opportunities and very active. A few findings of study also support this evidence of view, such as Harvey and Roper, which says using rates of returns on stocks, they found that although capital markets in the region mobilized a very substantial amounts of new funds and enhanced the liquidity, but the risk-adjusted returns on the shares of the companies, particularly in Malaysia, concerned were well below those generated in other equity markets in the 90s. Collections 2000 also support this by asserting further by emphasizing that relatively high rates of returns as well posted by firms in Malaysia before the crisis, it may have been inadequate for the rates for the degree of risk undertaken by them. It particularly shows management very poor management of risk at this point of time. So poor performers were not forced to adjust and raise their rates of return sufficiently to compensate investors for the risk taken. And but Mulbrook 2002 also support this evidence and also suggesting that allocation of resources of the firm factors also contributed to the poor corporate performance, especially namely in Malaysian sector. The problem statement, I simplified it, all of it in this slide. Okay. Particularly various crises like Asian crisis in 98-99 and also recently, not very recently, global financial crisis of 2008-2009 contribute to the financial fragility of corporate sector since early 90s. It gradually contribute to the severity and depth of corporate failure in late 90s and 2008-2009, and which lead to the weak performance of the corporates sector during that time, and it caused by poor allocation of resources and poor practice of risk management. This is what the papers find out so far. So the author that supported this evidence, the finding by Yazid 2001, Mulbrook 2002, Hoyt and Liebenberg 2011, which is very famous in risk management area. Mikes and Kaplan 2013, a very recent study on enterprise risk management as well. Their findings supported Hoyt and Liebenberg 2011 views on this particular problem. Jablonowski in 2006 saying that implementation of enterprise risk management helps firms manage better outcome, or in a way better performance. And Surveys and Tofano also saying the same thing, by suggesting that enterprise risk management, which is in simplified manner, you can imagine it as a process within an organization with concern the management of risk. Every organization, they associate with risk. They can never avoid it. They have to overcome it and to control it time by time. It's a never-ending process. Okay. So this surveys on Tofano findings said that enterprise risk management function, it contribute around 11% of overall finance function to the value of the firm, which is very important, and also contribute 3.8% of the market capitalization of a firm. And it been enforced by benchmarking survey of ERM. It says only 40% of the 240 organizations represented globally, including Malaysia, in the survey, have implemented a formal risk management program or process despite the rise of interest after the crisis from late 90s. So the problem statements here, this is the previous empirical studies on the concern area, which are actually part of my, I cannot think of the word, part of my proposed framework. Actually, this concept paper is not finished yet. Still in the data collection process, but this significant previous empirical study, it construct my proposed framework in this paper. The previous empirical study of firm resources and firm performance shows that the firm resources have significant impact on firm performance, be it tangible resources or intangible resources. We can say that tangible resources is resources like asset of the firm, and then a cash or whatever asset, a liquid or even fixed asset of the firm. And intangible resources is more on the reputation, more on the of asset that cannot be seen. Since Penrose 1955 of research studies shows there are significant significant relationship between firm resources and firm performance, and also supported by Werner-Feld, which is one of the very, very significant studies during their time in 1984, saying that firm resources or firm specific as anything which will be taught as a strength or weakness of the firm. Barney 1991 also saying the same thing. Rumelt as well. Opler and Titman in 1994, Ruffley and Wiggins in 2003, McGahan and Porter in 2005. In 2005, among many noted authors, supported Rumelt's findings. But in some of the previous empirical study that concern firm performance, namely, there are various studies like Hawawini et al. Actually over here, argue that firm factors not that significant compared to the industrial structure. So it's going to be, it's going to be, I'm going to, go in depth in this kind of relationship of the framework. And then the previous empirical study of enterprise risk management itself on firm performance, like I said before, Hoyt and Liebenberg, shows that significant relationship occurred within this particular framework. Gordon et al. 2009 also say that it is they find out that there are significant relationship between those two constructs, but with the contingency factor. Abu Manap et al. 2010 also support Gordon et al. Studies, also Paga and Waugh. But Paga and Waugh says there's no significant relationship. So this is the kind of studies that contradict each other. This is what my gap of study. This is what really construct my gap of study here. So the last of the concern construct is on the firm resources and ERM itself. Like Lam in 1997 saying that capabilities of CRO, which is termed as intangible resources here, had an impact on enterprise risk management. Kleffner et al., Bisley et al., and Yazid et al. Supported findings of Lam 1997, be it also Liebenberg and Hoyt also support the findings of Lam, saying that there are an impact between firm resources and ERM. So the gap of study here, Pape and Speckle in 2011 argued that academic literature on enterprise risk management really comprised into two fundamental streams, which I really agree, because the first stream aims at explaining determinants or variables associated with ERM implementation and processes, and the second stream seeks to identify the performance implication of ERM implementation. Mikes and Kaplan 2013 support this view. This is the latest study that I found out that really clearly say these two different streams really existed in this area of enterprise risk management. Therefore, this research intend to fill the gap between the two fundamental streams by focusing on practices of enterprise risk management as a mediator on the resources and performance relationship. I hope I explain it clear enough. The underlying theories of this research are based it on the relationship partially adopted from structure process outcome model by Donabedian in 1966 and resource-based view model of Barney 1991. And the research objective, as in the book, there are 4 of them: to examine the relationship between firm resources and firm performance, to determine whether firm resources have significant impact on enterprise risk management, and the third one, to establish if enterprise risk management have significant relationship with firm performance, and the fourth one, to examine if enterprise risk management process intervene the relationship between firm resources and firm performance. And the research questions support the objective. How do firm resources affect the dimension of firm performance? What is the impact of firm resources on enterprise risk management? Is there any significant relationship between enterprise risk management and firm performance? And does enterprise risk management act as mediating variable between firm resources and firm performance relationship? And the hypothesis in line with those two important construct. There is a significant relationship between firm resources and firm performance. Hypothesis 2, there is a significant relationship between firm resources and enterprise risk management. And the third one is there is a significant relationship between enterprise risk management and firm performance. And hypothesis 4 are going to answer enterprise risk management, whether they mediates the relationship between firm resources and firm performance. And the significance of study here, theoretical contribution here, contribute to the available literature on enterprise risk management in Malaysia, namely, by adding to the conceptual model of which involve ERM as mediator between resources and performance relationship, and the practical contribution, of course, on the public listed companies, relevant on the appropriate allocation of resources within the companies, and how to manage risk systematically through enterprise risk management practice to improve performance and to sustain them, of course. And the last one, of course, to the policymaker, set the appropriate direction and appropriate ERM practice for PLCs. As of in Malaysia, we still far behind from really implement it systematically. They are on paper, but in practice, not yet. The scope of study, the main focus, scope of content. I divide it into two: scope of content and scope of context. Scope of content, the main focus is, of course, like I said before, on the SPO model. I'm using the SPO model as a backup structure of my proposed framework, and RBV model as a basic theory and ERM practice, and how it's going to relate to firm performance. Many studies basically focus on developed countries, of course, by Daud and Yazid 2009. I'm referring to Malaysian studies, and the study on ERM practice in Malaysia is still very limited. And the scope of context in this research is the main focus in on public listed companies, because enterprise risk management in Malaysia, they so far only focus on large company that already been listed in the stocks exchange. And specifically for this research, I focus on main market and ACE market. The reliable sample of this research, according to the Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance 2007, and it is compulsory to disclose ERM practice within each public listed company statement of internal control by Bursa Malaysia 2012. And the methodology of this research, population and sampling, I use random sampling, and population of PLCs around 960, and the sample I work out into 247 using based on Umar Sekaran 2011, and Ghazali and Abdul Manap 2013. And I shall analyze the data using PLS SEM, and the instrument I use questionnaire, primary data, and unit of analysis would be public listed company in Malaysia. And that's all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's all.